Hello? 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 Hi, everyone. Oh, there we go.
Hello.
I'm like, is this thing on? Remember?
Yeah.
I guess welcome.
Yeah, this is the Shouts of Power.
I love
Yeah.
What a cool name for a panel.
What is a shout of power?
I've done many of them. It's those shouts that you do that get you really lightheaded at the end of them. Like once you, no, do one. All right.
Yeah, I need to know.
All right.
I'm serious. I don't know what it is.
Try not to blow your voice out doing that, guys. Don't try this at home.
Man.
Don't ask me to do that now. It's a long day.
I was about to say the exact same thing. I'm like,
But I didn't know what they meant. So
Yeah.
That's it. It's like,
here's my version of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
End of a Saturday con scream. That's pretty accurate. But yeah, we got a cavalcade of voice actors up here, very talented people. So I guess we should go down and introduce ourselves a little bit. Yeah, my name is Eric Scott Kimmerer. I do voices for Demon Slayer, Sailor Moon, Toradora, Seven Deadly Sins. I'm also an indie pro wrestler. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but I hit the indie. Yeah, when you think pro wrestler, WWE, AEW. That's pretty much what I do on the indie circuit. So anyone want to lock up later on?
yikes. Okay, I'm Cricket Lee, and I voiced May in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yay! And lots of other fun things like Cars 2 and lots of video games I don't remember. I'm sorry. And I have another career too. I'm a licensed master social worker, so I'm a therapist. So I have private clients where I live, and then I get to do voices, which is always fun. So maybe the wrestler and the therapist, there's a show in there. I don't know. There's something in there.
Hi, I'm Sarah Williams. I do the voices. I guess if it's game related, I'm Siegeween in Genshin Impact. Just recently, Disgaea 7 came out. I'm Yubana in that, and some playable units. I'm Jinx from League of Legends. Yeah.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Brandon Winkler. Yeah, I've done. I also do the voices. Let's see, roles. So video games wise, I literally have to pull it up every time because I forget. Yeah, I'm like, what am I again? Makoto and Master Detective Archives Raincode, Tower Fantasy. I'm the protagonist in that, and also things like Sword Art Online, and we have Inspector, Kuroko's Basketball. Yeah, all sorts of stuff. It's pretty cool. Fire Emblem, all that fun stuff. Woo!
Yeah, good man. Good. So we haven't talked. There's no structure to this.
No, it's just spitballing.
Yeah, we can have anybody wants to throw up a hand. I'm sure I speak for myself, but maybe along my colleagues here, we have a bit of ADHD up here, at least.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
Just raise your hand with whatever diagnosis
Yeah.
you feel comfortable with. Thank you. I see you.
Yes. Yes. A couple of video games I've been a part of were like Dark Rose Valkyrie and a lot of these JRPG type, almost like RPG dating games. I don't know. I was in Conception Plus and Zonky Zero and all these weird, it's mostly Spike Chunsoft and Idea Factory kind of things. But I did play a lot of One Punch Man, A Hero Nobody Knows, when that came out. Ooh. And I liked it because I like Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and it's pretty much that, so...
I'm so embarrassed, but the last video game I played was probably Donkey Kong in Pitfall. Remember does anyone? Oh, yeah, that's literally it. I have to be honest. I mean, I have to be me, And that's the truth. So sadly, I was never a gamer, and I never dated a gamer, so I missed out, right? Because if you date a gamer, you're kind of in it. You're like, oh, we're gaming? Okay, we're gaming. But I just didn't. So I'm very sorry that I haven't played any of your games or mine.
I don't have the time I used to anymore. Like I'm in so many JRPGs, and that's usually a 50 to 60 hour commitment. I don't have the time I used to anymore. I think the last one I played was Witch in the 100 Night, which I enjoyed thoroughly. And these days it's easier to play my horror games. Like when I was playing Dead Space 2 until I raged out on it and I had to stop. You don't know what my PS2 backlog is right now, and that's just the PS2. It's like someday Sarah wants to finish Disgaea 1 because she owns Disgaea 2 and she would like to finish that. But Sarah has 500 hours plus on Disgaea 1 and she knows that because that's where the timer stops on the saves. It's item world, okay?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time to play games either because I'm also, in addition to a voice actor, I'm also a flight attendant. So I'm very, very, very tired a lot of the time.
Moral of the story is nobody can make a living just voice acting.
That's the truth. Last game I played was, funny enough, Raincode because it's the closest thing to Danganronpa we've gotten in years. And I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually was like hooked for like a straight week. So point is, play Raincode.
Yes.
Question specifically for Sarah.
Okay.
I don't know if this is straying too far from video game voice acting per se, but so
Speak carefully.
I believe you voiced Tifa in FF7 Mission Abridged.
Yes, I'll count it. I will allow it.
How much did you already know about like Tifa and FF7 before?
Oh, I'd played FF7 before. I played the original PS1 version. Yeah, I played it. So yeah, I was aware. And again, in my backlog, I own Crisis Core, but I never played it yet. But I do own it. But yeah, I was totally aware. I played that once or twice. Did I finish? I did finish that. I don't think I beat the Ruby Weapons. I was just like, I'm done. I'm finishing this game already. But yeah, I was totally aware of FF7, and I had watched what was the movie? Yeah, and I watched Advent Children. So, yeah.
Does it work?
Yes.
Yes.
For all of you guys, what character did you really connect with the most when you were doing the master voice acting?
Ooh, like in general?
Like in general, like which character were you closest to, like voicing for that character?
I have a pretty easy answer. For me, it was SAO, funny enough. I just, thank you. I had just really started acting when I booked Yu-Gi-Oh! In SAO, and I was very new, and I didn't know what I was doing all the time. And, I really feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Was kind of going through the same thing. And as he grows through the series, it was just really nice to start off with a character that didn't have their crap together, much like I did. And I know there was a point where I had struggled really hard with getting through the sessions because, again, I just wasn't used to that style of work. I just was kind of thrust into things. And Von David, our director, he was amazing. He was like, look, man, I don't know what's going on with you. We're taking like 4 hours to get through half an episode. It's the worst. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And he's like, I get it, but you're the only one who could play this character. Please get it together. And I said, yes, sir. And so I had 2 weeks off, and I actually went to like speech therapy. And I just busted my tail for like 2 weeks, doing nothing but speech therapy stuff. And when I came back and I recorded the next episode, it didn't take nearly as long. And then on top of that, which made me feel real good at the end, and I tell this story too much, Von David comes into the booth and he's like, dude, just come here for a minute. Come here for a minute. And I'm like, oh gosh, he's gonna yell at me again. This is gonna be the worst. And he just hugs me. And he's like, way to go. And I'm like, oh, it was worth it.
Von David is amazing.
Do what?
Von David is amazing.
Yeah, I love that man.
He's
It's like a football story, like Rudy or something. That's amazing.
Gosh, I guess for me, it goes back to being, I think Sayaka was a lucky break, and also just very, very close to my own mentality, that it came out as well as it did just because I related so hard to her, and that made it a lot easier because I wasn't having to work quite as hard as I thought. And I know that now, but yeah, that's me.
It's a hard question, actually, because none of them are exact. I mean, I think I can find my way to everyone, even if I'm like, this is crazy. Like May was goth, and I'm like, what? I'll never book this. This is dumb. I'm wasting my time and my gas. But I was wrong. And that's because so then when you get it and you're like, well, they heard something or saw something in you, then you're like, okay, let me find this. Let me find this heart. And then I was able to find, similarities between she and I. And in the video games, I mean, those were really just me being like, wartime helicopter pilots, like nothing that was at all related to me, except for being bossy.
It's hard to choose because you always put a little bit of yourself into every character, and if you don't, it's not acting; it's lying. You got to find something to connect with them. So it's like picking a favorite child almost. But I'd have to say, like, the ones that maybe I connected to more were kind of bookending my career, most recent and most earliest. That was Haruyuki from Excel World, the sister show to Sword Art Online, written by the same author. And then recently, Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro as Senpai. Just kind of for the introversion, trying to become an extrovert kind of thing, especially with Haruyuki as a gamer who always goes home after school alone to play games. And that's what I did back in high school. And then, Sarah says she has 500 hours on Disgaea. Amateur.
Excuse me.
I have about...
That's Disgaea.
That's just the sky. I have about 3,600 hours on Destiny 2 right now, and that's only on the Steam version because it was on Activision before, and I do not have that time counter anymore. So
Wild that these have time counter because I feel like my eBay or like my Craigslist marketplace or my Facebook marketplace should have that timer because that's what I spend my time like. Do I need this end table?
I do not want a
Century
Reddit.
Modern. Yeah, like
a Reddit time counter would be
right.
horrible.
It's like or my People magazine. Like I'm starting to wonder if I need to do this instead of Fitbit. It needs to be like Shitbit, like this. Like the shit that I'm spending my time, wasting my damn time doing. And then I'd be like, Cricket, you could have written a book in this time.
Oh my God. Gotta read.
So something Cricket said about wasting gas on it made me think of just how often are auditions in person anymore? How often are they just record and submit a file?
Now it's
Every time.
Pretty much 100% now.
Before COVID, there was a little bit more of it, like going into your agency and stuff like that. Like your agent would have their own studio set up sometimes.
I haven't
But
done that in years.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
like I said, before COVID, ever since COVID, we all went lockdown. Everybody got their own home setups, and that's what's become expected of us, honestly.
Even audiobooks, right? Like, so this good friend of mine wrote this YA book and it's doing really well. And I know him. So he's like, I want you to do the voice. I'm like, well, of course. And the publishing house was like, no way. Like, we have our 3 people and these are the 3 people. And he was like, but she'll come to LA and it'll be free. And they were like, no, our girl's out in the middle of Maine and that's what we want. It's like, wow. I mean, it's fine. They're in charge, right? But it's like this girl is out in the middle of Maine in like her sweet little setup, and that's what they're used to and open to now. So yeah, I wouldn't have to waste gas, I guess.
Like, man, you're lucky if they even do in-person callbacks now. They still do, but more and more lately, it's just re-record and do a callback in your own booth. They're like, okay.
Yeah, it was weird because I got a call back for like this really big show and I was really excited for it. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to go to this unnamed studio in LA that I've never been to. And it's going to be super exciting for the callback. Yeah, so we're going to do this over Zoom. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I think there's one studio in LA that still does in person
I know
sometimes.
the one you mean, but they see it more and more and more. They're not.
Yeah,
It was really fun though. Like, I think in the old days, we'd all go in there and there'd be a music stand, and you'd open up your paper and you'd put it on there, and you'd open it, and you'd have little marks where you've scored your script, and up here I'm gonna do this, and over here I'm gonna do like that's hilarious and antiquated. But I kind of liked it because if you were doing a double read or 2 people were in there with you, you'd have another actor in front of you. It was great, So there were goods and bads.
Yeah. Good question. Oh, we got 2. You guys pick. You get pick.
Oh, okay. You were there. In the blue? Yes, I see.
Which characters were the hardest to voice?
Oh man, that's really hard because naturally, if it's a particularly difficult role, you don't normally book it. At least in my experience, if it's like too far hard of a voice, I don't even get brought in for it. But I don't know, to be honest with you. I have a lot of fun with all of my roles. I can't. I'm trying to think of one that was particularly challenging. I guess. I guess I played this dragon character once. I remember playing a role that was particularly deeper than what young Lil like teenage voice can normally do, and they were like, "No, that's not quite it." So I was like, "Arr," and they're like, "No, deeper," and they're like, "No, deeper than that," and I'm like, like whatever, and they're just like, "Well, you're trying, and we'll take it," and I'm like, "Thanks, appreciate your gusto there."
No, yeah, usually you wouldn't be doing a character that's that difficult for you because then you wouldn't book it to begin with. They'll know in the audition from the get-go. I mean, sometimes they'll throw you something you don't expect just in the session, be like, hey, play this extra. But usually they know your voice range, and they'll be like, can you do this? And you'll be like, yeah, we can give it a go. Yeah, I can't really think of anything that was like, oh my God, this is misery. Anything that was misery.
They'd be like, get the hell out.
Yeah, like I've said, anything that was
The
difficult.
Zoom call.
Anything that was difficult wasn't really pertaining to the role itself. It was more just like finicky directors or clients who were just like, could you do that like 50 million times in 50 million permutations because we don't know what we want?
I had a client who they'd never done or they were new to at-home recording, and it was an indie studio that was putting out a really big game. And people were really excited for it, and they asked me to come in and voice their main dude. And I was like, okay, awesome, that's great, And so they had me. It was for a video game, and they had me do all these screaming lines, like the attacking lines and the all that sort of stuff. The problem was their engineer on the other end had no idea how to level out like screams and stuff. So they were like, no, that just doesn't sound right. Can we get another one? And like I had just done a scream where it was like afterwards. So it's just oh gosh, never put me through that session again. I don't think they're difficult characters. They're just difficult situations. Where it's just like, oh, I hurt myself because I had to do this scream 50 million times
Yeah, and
because
screaming.
nobody was happy with
Or
it.
even yelling.
There's a general rule too. Like if you're auditioning and it's something that is hurting you, you should not be submitting on that. Because if you accidentally booked it, you're gonna have to do several hours worth of that. You could permanently injure your voice.
I was going to say, though, if it's not in a voiceover field, I mean, just as an actor, I did theater where, there's a part that's really effing hard. Shakespeare is great, and I love it, and I love doing it. But it's hard to do the meter, right? And to make it sound conversational and not, false, and have it be authentic. So that kind of thing. But I think voice, agreed, like I just wouldn't be booked on something that would be too difficult.
Yeah, I think like the more difficult aspects I've had in my career were, yes, directors with a lot of takes or directors who may have been unprepared and it feels like acting in a vacuum. I'm trying to get some context for a scene and I just can't really get a lock in on it, but I'll still do it. I'm not going to phone anything in. I'll do it to the best of my ability. But like early on, Toradora was probably one of my earliest challenges because at that point I had only done really like characters up here a little bit, in this kind of range. So suddenly they gave me this deeper character. And I think, did you send this to the wrong person? Like when they gave me the casting notice? And Von David was directing that one, but he was just so supportive, knew where I was in my career, and just really like guided me through that. By the end, he said, you totally nailed it. That felt really good. Just one quick thing aside about Von David. Dude parked himself in the 80s and is happy there. I love it. Because when you get a director when you get a good take with a director, sometimes you'll get a nice or great or good. With Von David, you get radical.
Is he like a beach guy?
He's like me, like flannel, like punk, 80s punk kind
Yeah,
of.
always wears a ball
that's
cap.
cool.
Yeah. And then the other difficult one was Seko from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure because that was only difficult by technicality. I was in a 4x4 booth at that point, recording out of home, no ventilation, in the middle of summertime. And if you've ever, you know JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, for those of you who do know, like it is, my character was very feral and very just always wild. So having to do that in the booth, I had to tell my director every single take, it's like, I need to let the funk out of here. So just like...
Damn, like you can
No.
have any noise. Terrible.
It's awesome.
Oh, a lot of it. I think you were next.
Yep.
Okay. For all of the aspiring voice actors in the room, if you had one piece of advice to give your past self when you were first starting out, what would it be?
Yeah.
Hard.
Calm down, you spastic little turd.
Yeah, I think I would just be like, it's all going to be okay. All meaning life. It will work out the way it's supposed to. That's what I would say. Because that's everything, right? It does work out the way it's supposed to. It may not be what we want, but it does work out.
Yeah.
Go study basic acting. Like just go, because like I was always doing voiceover classes, and nothing has helped me more than like finally like getting down with classes that are specifically for like film actors, TV actors, stage actors. It's like man, it helped so much.
Yeah, I'd say the same. Yeah, just acting classes in general, not specifically voiceover, but just any type of acting, especially theater. I found that theater was like really, really helpful for me personally. And then also, if you're in the room, if you're working, you're there for a reason. They did not make a mistake. They believe in you. So. Yeah. Yes.
So were you guys able to like have any improv on your characters, or suggest things that were actually able to be put into the characters?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
So, Kuroko's basketball.
Oh, yeah. What about Kuroko's basketball?
So...
3 directors, and where the heck episode are we starting today?
Yeah, well, we were bouncing around Kuroko's a lot, but this is for the movie specifically. Like I said, I play a lot of Destiny too, and I play with my 2 buddies, Roy and Shannon. I call them my fire team. Roy will always grab an orb, dunk it, and yell over the Discord, "Dunkachino!" Which...
Are you kidding me? That was...
Which Shannon gets vehemently angry about. He's like, I will drive to your house and slap you. Like, so there was a line in the movie where the original line was, "Oh, come on, how come nobody's giving me props on that sweet dunk?" And I did the line as is. I'm just like, can I have one, please? Can I have one wild? And sure enough, it fit the lip flaps. "Oh, come on, how come nobody's giving me props on that Dunkachino?" I did not think it was going to make the cut. I thought it was going to be on the cutting room floor forever.
Shannon hates you forever now.
Somebody sent me a clip of it when it came out on Netflix over Twitter. I tagged him, and he just calls me. He just emails me. He's just like, you sat on this for 3 months. This is an in-joke between us, and now the entire world knows it. I'm just like...
But you didn't know they were going to keep it. Right?
I didn't know they were going to keep it. I was just as surprised.
Right.
But I was still like, just sitting there, please let them keep it. Please let them keep it.
I mean, now we're all going to use it everywhere. I don't even dunk, but I'm going to dunk a chino.
I got 2. This was an accident, actually. This was not my doing. I was doing a Star Guardian Jinx, which was a lovely, wonderful experience because I love magical girls. It was a thing. And I remember in the midst of the session going through, and it was great. And I come to a thing that says something, I think it was something akin to like, trademark, catchphrase, pose, and I was like, oh, that's a funny idea. It's like we're listing out what Sailor Moon does. And I'm like, that's a hilarious line. So I do it. And I'm like, great, that came out. And I look up and everyone in the booth is laughing at me. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And they're like, Sarah, that wasn't a line. That was a stage direction. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And they're like, no, it's perfect for her. And they put it in the game. And I was like, I love that. It is very Jinx moment. I think the other one was when I was doing Full Dive, the anime. I forget what the full line is. Like real life, the game life is crappier than the VR life. I can't say it. It says it's a. But I was doing it, and there came up a line that I think was something akin to. I think the term corn hucking moron came out, and suddenly in my brain, many years of MST3K flooded my senses, and I was like, "Excuse me, could I alter this line just slightly?" And they're like, "Yeah, if it fits flaps, go for it." And I think the line and they kept it, and I was so happy. I think the line is, "I've got more training than you'll ever have, you corn shucking sucker." Uncle Jim's Dairy Farm. Anyone?
Man, I'm trying to remember. I know I've done improv in a session before, but nothing's come to my mind in particular that really stands out. It's just been goofy, like, whatever.
Noises. I have like laughs that I know, because I have a really weird laugh, and it's squeaky and weird, and people are like, and my husband's like, "You're so embarrassing at the grocery store." Oh, I'm just laughing at something. So it's a weird thing. So I think sounds, like guttural sounds or laughing or pauses, those things for sure. I can't remember anything specific.
I do have one more from Von David, and this was not supposed to make it. So we were recording Dora Dora. There's a scene where Taiga's on Ryuji's doorstep, and I say to her, "I thought you left because you were in love," and I'm supposed to frazzle my hair and just cut myself off and scream. Well, we were doing these bad anime reacts because we would get bored every so often, and like I would just catch him off guard. If I'm running down the stairs, it's supposed to be, and I would just get bored and just go. So I decided to do one for this particular take, and it was, "Oh, come on, I thought you left because you were in love." And it got a pop out of them. Ricky and David laughed. Apparently, Alex Von David did not go to the rundown that week. Ricky kept it in there as a joke to bomb one of the voice actors that were coming in after. The DVD releases. Alex Von David texts me and says, "Put in disc 3, go to episode whatever it was, I think it was 17 or something." And I sure enough see it. I'm just like, that was not supposed to be in there. But sure enough, every year in Reddit, everybody's just like, "Oh, that was a great take." I'm just like, "Thank you." Yes, Willy Wonka.
What has been your favorite director to work with, and why?
Can't.
Vaughn person is whoever he is the person. I mean, for me, I've worked on a lot of video games, but it was a bunch of different directors, and it was so long ago, God knows. But the Andrea Romano for Avatar was incredible, and she's just an incredible woman. Like, it was rad, and I always felt like, oh my God, I'm an imposter and they're going to fire me. I mean, all the time. I was like, I suck and these people are great. And oh my God, that's Mark Hamill. And I was just a dork. And so she was just like a mama, a mama bear. And she'd be like, just listen to it and do that. I'm like, okay. And I would just listen to my last, like a month ago. And I'm like, whoa, that's what I do? Because if you don't know and you just start somewhere, like you said, like mid voice, I knew I had to go lower, but it was not only lower, but I had to completely like stop any facial muscle to do any of May. So that felt odd to be right. It's like, how do I express myself? And so I just had to listen, and she would tell me, and I would go with it. So I loved her.
It's hard to pick a favorite director. Everybody's been so amazing. I mean, one of my earliest teachers was Tony Oliver, and I got to work with him. Yeah. One of the greatest teachers, and I got to work with him on a lot of my early shows as he directed me, so that was just a nice transition into that. And of course, Alex Von David was always a blast, just talking monster movies and 80s movies and stuff like that. But I've had so many amazing directors: Chris Kaysen, Steve Staley. We can't pick just one.
Yeah, Alex Von David's high up there. He's one of those directors who really makes it feel collaborative and not just like I'm just a monkey in a box going like, yes, how high do you want me to jump, please? So, yeah.
Yeah, what all Dave said, because it's Von David in particular is special to me because I think, yeah, I really like. I was just going through a rough time during that like whole recording thing, and he made things as easy as possible on me. It was just so understanding and kind, and just left such an impression. And sometimes you don't always get that from a director. You know, sometimes it's just like, all right, we're here, we're gonna do our job, and then we're gonna go home and like never talk again. You know, but you know, Von David's definitely one of those ones that sticks out. He's up there for me. But again, like work with so many good ones, it's really hard to be like, you're my favorite. You know, so.
Shelby.
So, were there any characters that you have voiced that you have struggled on an emotional aspect? Like there was like a certain scene or a moment that you were kind of like struggling to like voice the character. Get back into the field. That's
I mean, I don't think so because I mean, I think that's what I look forward to. I guess like, I want to be uncomfortable sometimes. So, I mean, it's always hard for me to scream because I can't scream. So that sucks because I'm like, dang, they need this and I can't give it to them. But then they also hear me and should know that I maybe can't give it to them and they should get someone else to, maybe scream. But nothing's like emotionally or ethically or, too tough. Certainly, again, on stage or any other content, yes. I mean, I've had to be deflowered on stage. That's pretty intense, right? That's very uncomfortable, and you figure it out, and you do it, and you trust your other actors. But for VO, I haven't.
There have been some challenges. Like the thing we get nowadays as a luxury that we didn't get even when I started was we get the streaming services nowadays. We got Crunchyroll and all these. We can see the subtitled version before we go into the booth, and that's what I try to do sometimes. I want to know the emotional resonance I need going in. Is there going to be a sad scene? Is there going to be it's going to be shouty or something like that? And I think sometimes the struggle for me was like a lot of the crying scenes because there's a balance you have to find there. You don't want to do full ugly cry. You don't want the like kind of sound in your acting. So like I've been able to shed some tears in the studio, but I gotta pull it back. I can't can't do that.
I guess for me, I wouldn't say it was difficult, but it was just emotional. Again, spoiler alert, I play a lot of characters who die. So there was a particular death in a particular show. Since it's a big spoiler, I don't want to say it. But there was a show where they had me in a chair, literally leaned all the way back. The mic was up in my face, and then I had to look down like this. So I'm watching the screen on this side, my script's on here, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just dying, whatever. And but I had spent like 24 episodes with this character or something, and I just. It hurts wrapping up a journey, and then on top of that, the emotional connection with all the other characters that you interact with. It does. I don't know about y'all, but for me personally, like I put myself in the shoes of the character, and for me, it was just so emotional and sad, and just we were all crying in the studio. I walked in after we were done, and the director was like, "Good job," and I'm like, yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, I don't know.
I guess, like I said, Sayaka was a lot like me, and Sayaka got dark, obviously, and it was also a time when I was going through a rough patch myself, but it behooved me because honestly, it brought something more to it. So I was like, fuck, heck, I shouldn't be cursing. Heck with it. Heck with it. Let's feed this, you know. And it's often hard to go, but it's often interesting to go back and rewatch that show because I'm just like, oof, yeah, I remember that, you know. But it's also sort of something we like doing in a weird way. Like we relish the chance to go to those places because it's just like give me something to chew on. Gosh, and I think about this one live action dub I did called it was a show called On the Spectrum, which was about it was about three autistic roommates and sort of their thing. And you know, part of the casting thing was like, "Hi, I am." So that was something on the casting thing specs actually, where they're like, "Please don't read it unless you actually are on the spectrum." I'm like, "Do they know? Did I tell my agent? Because I hadn't told my agent yet about this." Whatever, you know. So I went in and I booked it. It was the lead character. I was like, "Oh, this is cool," because I hadn't actually never really played one with knowing that about myself. But it goes some really hard places. Like I don't want to talk about it because it could be triggering for certain people. But let's just say there's an uncomfortable part of an episode where it basically I'm in the booth going, "Please don't get in that car. Please, honey, don't get in that car. She's getting in the car. No, 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 no. I know where this is going, and this is gonna suck." You know, I'm just watching, being like, "Oh God, is someone gonna stop this? Okay, her brother's here. Good, good, good." You know, and then that turns out horrible too. And I was just like, "Ooh, oh, this is horrible. It's awful." You know, it wasn't too bad. I mean, honestly, thankfully the directors there, and I'm just like, "It's okay. Separate yourself from that. You're not in there." But it's still hard to watch. You know, ooh, that was tough.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I sound insane, like, because I'm in a band too. So, like, I'm in a blues band, and so my husband will be driving us, and I'll go into full on, and he's like, "Jesus Christ," and I'm like, "Shut up! You don't know what it's like. We have to warm up." So, I mean, I can't do it here because it's really loud. But basically, I mean, for me, and it's not just tongue twisters, because that's one thing. But because I'm so raspy, that's great, but I can't just go cold. Like, that's not great for me, for my mechanics. So if I'm going to do, you know, an audition's pretty quick, but if I'm doing dialogue, then I will absolutely warm up. And it's usually like, I just want to get nasal. So I want to be able to get as high as I can and then as low as I can. So I'll do a lot of like, nyeh, 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 like, so that I'm actually buzzing in my sinuses, which sounds crazy. But when I do that, I can smooth out the texture, which is nice, but then I can go back and act with the texture if I want it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay, good.
There's not a lot of dignity when it comes to warming up, honestly. I do two specific warm-ups for breathing mostly and for warming up the voice. One is I learned this back in theater in high school. Put your breath down into your stomach, and the way you do that is you do that 3 times really fast, and then you do repetitions of that. So you do that like 5 times in 3 successions. So and you're trying to push the breath down to your stomach. You do not want to be breathing from up here. So yeah, exactly. And then I learned this from a voice doctor because I did a lot of damage to my voice from a full-time job I had once. Had some polyps some calluses in here. So she taught me how to do what is called the Downton Abbey. So it's kind of just, it's a natural theater siren, you know, essentially, but it's, you hear people speaking at Downton Abbey, Maggie Smith, they're speaking like this. So essentially you just do like a siren of that, like,
It's basically just the fishy thing from Family Guy.
yeah.
I wouldn't where that fish did go.
Yeah,
A fish, a fish, a fishy. Oh!
Yes, exactly.
That's
exactly
it.
that.
But
It
that's
opens
your
up the
head
throat.
voice,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know if there's any singers, but so your head voice, oh, that's not my like chest voice. So they'll say that if you have a strong chest voice, which I do, and a weak head voice, then I need to do more in the head. So more of that will support the diaphragm, and your strongest sound comes from there.
Something I do a lot is trills, like that sort of thing. Yeah, I do those a lot, especially if I'm feeling rusty or if I like say if I'm feeling a little tired. Those tend to help me out a lot, and I really struggle with diction. In particular, I'm one of the bad ones when it comes to diction, and so tongue twisters are amazing for me. And something else that can help, believe it or not, and this isn't necessarily super great for your throat. It's better for your diction than anything else, but it's you whisper every word you can. I've done everything from like I will grab my tongue physically and like say things. And believe it or not, it like clears you up like a ton. That's one of like it's so funny because I have people who are directing me and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Trust me, it works." And they're like, "What?" So it's just very funny.
I'm not particularly technical myself. Since I have to drive to a lot of sessions, I tend to just sing in the car on the way, usually mid-range stuff, until you can feel it, because you can feel when it starts to level up, because you don't want to start like, you're not going to sound good high-pitched anyway. It's like just nice, moderate songs, just something to like get, because that's the thing with girls or female, voice actors or female presenting, where it's like, guys can get away with usually waking up and sounding all like, oh, I sound like I just, you sound all like Steve Bloomy and it's real nice and cool sound. We don't sound good like that. I don't sound good with the Steve Bloom rasp. It's terrible. So I need at least, especially with a morning session, yeah, at least with a morning session too, especially, I need at least an hour for my vocals to get going. And either I sing on the way to the session in my car, or since I'm on with the boyfriend on Discord all the time too, I immediately, when my alarm goes off, I just start talking to him. Yeah, I just talk to him. So I was like, you need to talk to me. I need to work because I need to get my vocals going. That's why I talk to you in the morning before my sessions. I'm trying to get it to go. It's not that romantic. It's just like what? And he's just like, you know what I was thinking about? I was like, what were you thinking about? I was thinking about like when I rearrange this one room, I'm gonna paint the walls black, and then I'm like gonna, And he's like, do you remember that one episode of The Office? Like, I remember, yeah. Anyway, just talking to him just like gets the frogginess out.
I just always love imagining what people see when they're driving by us on the way to the studios, because we're just doing all these. I try to make eye contact as much as I can.
But the tongue thing is great. Like,
That's it's like that guy trying to tear his tongue out.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Got a question way in the back there. Far back. Yeah.
Every rapper has their favorite bar. Every movie star has their favorite scene. So the question I want to ask you guys is, as voice actors, what was your favorite line that you actually had to perform? And what was a line that was like, God, I actually have to say this?
oh God.
I already have one for the why am I saying this? So I worked on this show called Beyblade Burst, and and this is one of the funniest stories I ever tell. Yeah, at least to me, maybe not to you, but Tony and I are in the booth. We're working on this character, and my character's, he's around here. He's very, he's a crazy. His name's Louis, and he's this crazy little antagonistic boy, and they are like going to, I guess they're having like this final battle between Vault and Louis, and Vault is like, oh, I'm gonna beat you or whatever, and then Louis's line, or no, it's terrible. Anyway, Vault's line is, I'm gonna make you burst, and then Louis's line in response is, that's what you think, but I'll be the one doing the bursting. And I was like, Tony, is this real? He's like, yeah, it's real. And I'm like, great, this is approved. It's approved. Great.
That's the one you couldn't believe. Okay, so. I'm just thinking. thinking about the question.
I mean, it's not like it was horrible, but I recall when I was doing when I was doing ReZero, that Felix has a lot of cat puns. So many cat puns and so many words that turn into that's if they sound close enough to nya, I have to like do it, and you don't know how hard it is. It's like almost like learning a slightly second language or an accent, because it's just like everything has to be nyad. If it can be nyad, it will be nyad. And what's funny enough too is I feel like at the same time I was also recording Pito from Hunter x Hunter, which is also heavily cat punned. I had a huge education in how to cat pun up your character. It was great. I mean, now it's just second nature. It's hysterical coming back for the game and just being like, yeah, hey, should we actually, this says now, shouldn't I do meow? It's like, and they're like, oh yeah, and I'm like, thank you, I know this now. Don't think I don't. Lines I liked, I mean, I loved Witch in the Hundred Knight doing Metalia. Like, because she's so foul-mouthed, and to the point that they were like, you can make up these curses if you want, because we're going to bleep them all out anyway. And I was just like, this is hilarious. I think the term rat jubblies came up at one point, and Tony Oliver's like staring at me being like, I worry about you. And I'm like, then I have done my job. Next line, please.
You should have said corn shucking suckers.
Oh, that was full dive. And again,
That's
I will
That's my
insert
new one.
MST3K into anything I can. I think, wait, God, no, but my favorite line out of that whole game was, and I think I can get away with saying it, because there's a moment where, there's a moment where she's, spoiler alert, she gets murdered. She comes back from this a lot. She's been murdered and she's like frothing at the mouth in her bed, just like dead, until she comes back to life. And the little familiar guy you actually play as, like, there's an option where the bed actually is sentient, and the bed's like, hey, you want to come lay down? I'm super comfy. Like, and like, and you have the choice where you have a choice where it's just like, yeah, I'm going to get in the bed. And he just plops on the bed and he's so happy about it. And then my character wakes up and she's just like, she's so pissed off. And I should take this away. She's like, hey, and she kicks him out of the bed. She's like, where on that tiny body are you hiding balls big enough to sneak into my bed? I loved that line.
Where are you hiding them? Oh, I mean, I did a lot of straight commercials, right? So I had one for like healthy, it was like a healthy choice ice cream or something. And it was so cringy because I had to be like, I know what you want. And it was just gross. It was like, ew, but I will take your money. I know what you want. It's rich and I never talk that slow. So I was probably like, it's rich and creamy. They were like, slow down, and so I'm like, it's rich and creamy. And what's that? Like, just ew, flirting about ice cream was disgusting. So that was like, I even have chills, the cringy chills. But my favorite line was definitely not in a regular commercial because those are not well written. They're really cheesy. But I'd say May's iconic line from Avatar would be my favorite. And that was that you miscalculated, that I love Zuko more than I fear you.
I'd say probably my favorite line was the Dunkachino one. Like that one is one I own. That one has so much just history behind it. So I love that line. I think one of my cringiest lines, I still love it. I still laugh at it, but it was from Pokemon Generations, where I play Blue. It's one of those shorts on YouTube, so they have Pokemon Origins, Pokemon Generations, and the scene is Blue walking up to the Elite Four, essentially. Like, he's about to face all the Elite Four. And this was just like, maybe I could have delivered it differently. I'm not going to blame the awkwardness of the writing, but the line was, the greatest Pokemon trainer in the world? That is me. And it's like, syntax, I'm an English lit minor, this is fun.
God, so did you want to change? You were like, can I please change this?
I was a new studio, my first time in a new studio, and usually I like to, try and...
But you're like, it's so well.
Yeah, so it's still out there and people still quote it to me.
That's amazing.
Is me.
That is me.
That is
Subject, that is me. It's such weird syntax.
That's weird, yeah. I think there's someone over there. Yes.
Oh, that's good.
All of them. I'm,
Yeah.
seriously, I mean, and not like I'm like I suck, but it's like I don't know. You go on so many. I mean, like I said earlier at a panel, I think there was a 2-year period where I was like, what am I doing? This is stupid. But then other people were like, oh, it's the same for me. And then when I moved to LA and it was all mostly animation, then I was way more comfortable. I was like, oh, this feels like my crew. Like this is more what I want to be doing. But I always felt like well, because I didn't play the games, right? So I was like, God, am I like a weirdo? Like I'm out there like what I did with my free time was like write and like read, and I was like, I'm such a loser. I don't know any of this stuff. I wasn't in the club, like I didn't know the lingo. So I always felt like I'm never gonna get this. So I was always shocked. And even getting a job like Avatar was exactly the same as getting a job, as a female helicopter pilot who falls off the snow bank. They were all the same. We had no idea what was going to do well, what was going to be, but that would have been cool, right, to know, but it wasn't established. So, it wasn't like you're auditioning for a Clint Eastwood movie. Like, what you're doing and this is a big deal. And that's kind of what was fun about it. You just never knew.
Does anyone else love that?
Yeah, if anybody else wants to answer, are we going
One of mine recently actually was
IMDb.
I'm trying to remember
Check it.
I'm trying to remember it. No, I'm pretty sure when I booked this role, I was really surprised, not because of necessarily the fact that I booked it, but because of the fact that it was such a different character than I normally get to play. It was Raincode, Makoto Kagutsuchi. If you guys have played the game, it's very good. Play the game. And they're a villain ? And just getting to play a really much more complex role than I normally get to play, where they're kind of hiding who they truly are at all times, and then also they're a little femme, so it's getting to play a character like that like I just love, and I was really surprised and shocked and also really thrilled because it was good all around.
I mean, I'm shocked anytime I get a lead role in an anime, which doesn't happen very often. That's why I'm shocked. Like Mile from Didn't I Say to Make My Abilities Average in the Next Life? Or, goodness, what was her name? Oh gosh, I'm blanking. It was Shido Neko Project, the animation. I was deleting that, and again, that shocked me too, because I'm like, this is a Harlack or Christina V or a Brianna Knickerbocker role. This is not something you guys usually give me. I'm grateful, but what are you doing? I think, oh my gosh, I just thought of it and I just lost it. Shoot. I just recently did an indie project called Wildcard Reshuffled, and they gave me this sort of Karen-y type, stick up her butt lady who I don't normally book that. I just read on it because I'm just like, well, this would be nice to try. And then I booked it, and and once the session was over and it went beautifully, I admitted to the directors, like, I had no idea why you wanted me for this role. I was like, what am I, like, why am I having a callback for this? And he's like, no, you were like, and he said the nicest thing. He's just like, no, with that was just a given. It's like, it's you. And I'm like, thank you. I was just like, because I was just like, I've never really booked this sort of character before. And I was just like, wow, I was so nervous because it's just like, I want to do
Now you can play more women with sticks up their butts.
It is.
If you want, I mean, it's more money, so.
No, it's true. It was kind of fun. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I can't think of the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, for me, like I mentioned, Ryuji was definitely one of them, because up to that point, I had only played characters up here or just like in my natural voice. So to do something kind of deeper and like actually be this heavy, like, romantic lead. It wasn't just bombasticness as my previous two characters were. This was actually some drama. Yeah. So that was one. Fisheye from Sailor Moon, because while I do a lot of high-pitched voices, I have never done one that high-pitched before. So I still freak my dad out whenever I do it.
Does he go, huh?
Yeah, no, woo! Yeah, that's what gets me up there.
We have time for one more, maybe, if we're all going to answer it.
We can also lightning round, possibly. So.
We got one or two more, I
Yeah, let's lightning round. Let's get some questions. So you, and yeah. So your question first. What's the best role we've ever had video games? And then we'll just do a couple more questions and answer all of them. So who's
They're all my children. It's hard to choose the best one.
Yeah. You there? Yeah. Okay. So best role, more video game, more voice, and over here. Yes. Yes.
For Cricket, what are you most anticipating for the new Avatar movie?
Well, I can knock that one out.
Okay.
Yeah, so James C., who plays the Cabbage Man in our show, is in it. So he's Cabbage Man.
Yes.
So he was like, don't worry. He came, we all went, last year, all like 10 of us were at a con, which was bonkers. And he was like, it's good. They are doing it beautifully. They have the gravitas. They understand the integrity. And we were like, thank you, God. So we're excited and we're hopeful.
Yes. And so the other two questions were favorite role in video games and more video games or anime.
Immediately, more video games, more anime. I just want to work.
Yeah.
I love doing it. I have no preference. I want to do both. I love working.
Yeah, it's no contest. I like both so much. It's hard to choose. Video games slightly just because I do more of them, and
I definitely want to get in. I mean, I love both. If I'm going to do more video games, I want to do more motion capture because that's where it's going nowadays.
Yeah.
So, like, being theatrically trained, doing wrestling and stuff like that, I definitely want to do more physicality. But I love anything I'm in. Like, I always find an attachment to it. And as far as favorite roles, again, it's like, as Sarah said, it's picking your favorite child, essentially. It's like, they're all your little children. They're all little
but I'm
babies.
sure somebody
Maybe
out there
some
has a
get
favorite
more steak at
child.
Din Din than the others, but... it's,
I have a particular fave though that I like to go in and play, and that's in Welcome to Demon School Irma. I play Shaq's lead, and he is just this rambunctious imp that is one of the funniest characters I've ever gotten to play because he just freaks out about literally everything. And I remember first going in for him, I thought he was just this throwaway character. I didn't realize that I'd be playing him 3 seasons later, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do some Todd Habercorn impression and, just throw it away. Why not? And from there on, it was just like, oh, wait, now I have to do this for 3 seasons. Wonderful.
And I do have one. One of my favorite video game voice actors was just an accident because in ReZero Season 2, they brought me in to play Leibotin Kaitos, the Archbishop Sid of Gluttony, who starts off the entire second season's arc. Like, I take out one of the main characters, and I was ready to heal it up. I was ready to be the bad guy and get booed on Twitter and just like really lean into the wrestling heel. But then they had much more time because it only took half an hour, and they were like, here, voice the Ground Dragon, voice Patrichet. So I voice the lead character's mount, essentially. And they kept bringing me in because it was a simuldub every week just for that character because my other character that they actually cast me for never came back. And then I got to do Patrichet for the video game of ReZero.
Sound? How do you do that? That's like my scream. It's just that.
It's like a cat purring with a cold.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank
This
you
was
guys.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Thanks, y'all.
NekoCon, you are amazing.